All right, traders, welcome to today's recap. This is Christian from Tribeca Trade Group, and it is Monday, March 18th, the day after St. Patty's Day. Well, we had another update today of 38 basis points. There was a little bit hesitation there in the middle of the day, which was kind of up in the air, I thought, in terms of possibly a reversal day coming. But, that volatility came right around, 11 o'clock today. There was some more Brexit headlines, so I don't know if that's exactly what's kind of been causing this. We've been seeing these, every time they talk about a Brexit vote, having to happen again, it seems like we get a little bit of market volatility. But it seems like we're also falling more than, Europe was open when this was happening, and I was watching the price reaction there, and it just wasn't that much. So I don't know if it's also a little bit of an excuse to sell. Right now the VIX finished slightly higher on the day, about 1%. So we're at a 13 in the VIX. So once we get to this low in the VIX, I said this earlier, all it takes is basically, you're pricing in, I don't want to say market perfection, but you're not, the market's not pricing any volatility. So if you get something that's a little bit of a change in stance, you will see that there's a little bit of volatility that picks up if there's when we're that low in the VIX, which is basically, and we even got down to what, a 1250. This was this today? I guess this was in the overnight market, but let's just look at the VIX really quick on the daily chart, and then we'll go over more of the price action. But yeah, I mean, we're getting to a pretty low level here, so we're going to be, we have a Fed meeting for Wednesday, so I view today as kind of just the icing on top of the cake, right? I mean, a little bit made some more money today with up 40 basis points, small caps. So, I mean, at this point going into a Fed meeting, I think that, what I want to do is just kind of slim down positions. And really, I don't have to get bare bones in terms of positions, but, just be smart. And I'll give you an example of that. But let's just look at the small caps. They finished up 64 basis points, so they ended up outperforming. But look at this move that we had intraday. Really a great testament to what I have on my screens, which is the value areas. I mean, you can't draw this up any better than that version point of control being taken out. Again, I don't draw these in here. People, I think sometimes that I draw these things in here. No, they're automatic. There's one down here as well. But I mean, we tag this thing to the penny, and so that's sometimes how one of those works. I'll give you another example of one that I saw today was Square. To the downside. So again, I'm not drawing these in here. I know it looks like we do have a program once they are taken out. And again, a version point of control is just that. It's a point of control that's never been touched before, right? Like, so for this one, price went through it. This one, price went through it. So there's no need to draw a purple line further. But for this one, you could see that price completely moved through it. So it kind of acts a little bit like the concept of a gap. But look at the nice reversion. Now, it wasn't a huge move from the lows in Square, but certainly that was the low. And, IWM also did the same thing. So IWM actually held, but this was a 1% move. I was, it's funny because sometimes you think you tweet things and you cause a reversal. And I wasn't doing a victory lap or anything. I was just commenting that the small caps were really strong. And I didn't see this version point of control because I wasn't trading IWM, but it took this thing out at around 10:55 when it was up 1%, and it went all the way back to flat on the day. So there was definitely some market volatility intraday, but nice to see this crawl all the way back. Qs, and that was the other point that I noticed was, so Q's actually struggled with getting back into value after this thing. Same thing, value to top of value to bottom of value. Came back and got rejected here. Actually went lower, about 1220, and then was basically grinded higher for the rest of the day. So, a little bit of I don't want to say a question mark or a head scratcher, but I just think at this point, I saw a lot of different things on Twitter where people are saying, oh, maybe it's this or maybe it's this. It's just one of those things. I think we've had such a big run. I think you have to kind of expect that institutions are going to start to take a little bit of money off the table, especially into an event. I don't think people always want to say that they know things and that's what's going on. I just don't think that that's it. I think it's logical for after, let's bring up, it doesn't matter, the cues. After a run like this, going into a Fed meeting, what do you think funds are going to do? Logically, do you think they know anything, or wouldn't you be taking some money off the table? If you now maybe you didn't get long on the lows, but let's say you got long somewhere in here. You're a big fund managing money, and you have a big event coming up. You don't think you're going to take some off the table? So that's the way you want to be forward thinking and not come up with conspiracy theories that people know something about what's going to happen at the Fed meeting. I think if you logically think it out, you're going to get to the right conclusion. And not so much thinking, oh, something's going on that we don't know about. I think a lot of times just think the problem through. Think about what a fund is going to do in the next couple days. Probably what's going to happen is I would think that you're going to see, I would expect, another, just like we saw today, right? More sell programs coming through. Because why? Because, if you're a fund, how much more are you looking for at this point? So, to me, that's somebody selling pretty decently. Also, the algos have to do with that too. They see the Brexit headline and they're moving on it. But yeah, interesting that the VIX finished up 1%. The VXN, which is basically the VIX for the Qs, that finished up 7%, and same thing with IWM. So I don't know if that's a little bit of a warning sign, right? I mean, we really haven't seen many warning signs in this whole move up, but perhaps with IWM up and its VIX, you could probably see this here, RVX. So this is the volatility again for the Russell 2000. Maybe an excuse for yourself to kind of take some money off the table. The fact that these instruments, and we'll look at the VXN, was up, right? I mean, just be a little bit forward thinking, and I think a little bit smart and not so greedy. And maybe buying a little bit of puts down here, going into the Fed meeting with a VIX of 13. Now, granted, usually what happens is volatility rises going into an event. So we're yet to see that. Maybe today we saw the start of that. But I would think that tomorrow, Tuesday, and of course the meeting is Wednesday, 2 o'clock. And remember, every Fed meeting now gets a press conference. But I would think you're going to see some volatility increase. So maybe a trade that we set up for, like a short-term trade that we set up for tomorrow. I'm not going to get into VXXB, but that thing is a disaster. So, but I'm not going to get into that instrument. It's just it takes too much time. So let's talk about what else do we see today. A little bit different names outperforming. We've really started to see these energy names outperform. Now we have seen some call buying in this group. We saw a little bit of call buying in XOP. We could look to see how these look. SLCA was a name that came to mind in terms of option activity. This actually took out a Virgin point of control, so I don't like to add names on once that happens. So we did see some calls there. We've been seeing names like Devon Energy, not today so much, but there has been some buyers in here. I just don't have a huge amount of conviction that I'm going to sit in one of these energy trades for a while, so I'm kind of okay missing the boat a little bit. I haven't sent this out, but I did a little bit of a just one-page write-up on conviction and how important that is when you get into a trade. Because if I get into a trade like XOP, how much do I really want to be in this trade? And if I see some market volatility, it's probably one of the first things I'm going to sell. So I would say I've got really low conviction. So that means that I probably, even if I do get involved in it, it's probably going to be a pretty small trade because it'll be one of the things that I exit right away. I just don't have a lot of faith. And this is still locked inside value, by the way. And here was the XOP order. I know that I think the Nigerians on CNBC mentioned it. There was also puts that went up too. But you could see a block going up mid-market. Here was puts. Oh, the puts were tied. These were also tied. So maybe there were more calls that went up straight up. All right, so that was energy, and then the financials. This is interesting. The financials are now above. Even this is non-dividend adjusted, but a non-dividend adjusted chart is also above the 200-day moving average. So, it's nice to see something else start to catch here. JP Morgan. A lot of these charts are going to look. They look very similar to me. BAC may be a little bit better looking. Goldman had a nice day. Up 2% on the day. You got a virgin point of control at 210. Could be a nice target for that. So those were your best performing groups, and then pot. MJ, which has got a virgin point of control that's up there as well. Tillery reported after the close. They smoked it. Haha. Sorry. I'm just kidding. They are up a little bit here. I think they beat expectations, but I think they're only earning like $15 million, so their valuation is sky high. All right, I'll stop. Also, STNA reported. STNE. This is the new Buffett ad, and this is what Brazilian software. So real nice move here after hours. Not a lot of data for you to play. You just kind of had to go with it if it was a name. I think they were implying about 11% move in the options, so pretty expensive. But STNE, so yeah, so besides those areas of the market, Amazon, also first time back above the 200-day moving average, I believe. Yep. And last time it got firmly rejected, which was back on earnings. But this time it looks a little bit different. And I've been in and out of some Amazon trades. I got out of an Amazon swing on Friday. I went back into one this morning. And so here's what I was talking about. In the beginning of the video, I talked about being smart right now. I see that we've got resistance at 1772 at Amazon. But I don't really want to carry short-term swings because I had on not this week's but next week's calls. Do I want to hold a call spread in Amazon through the Fed meeting? Probably not. Longer-term positions, that's absolutely fine. And those could be hedged. I could do things like sell short-term calls, but I don't really want any short-term plays on unless specifically designed for what's going to happen this Fed meeting. So you could do this exercise now. It's Monday, and again, it's not that I'm expecting a big event on Wednesday, but considering that the VIX is not pricing any short-term volatility, I'm being a little bit more conservative, and also protecting some gains too. I mean, this was like I said, today was icing on the cake in terms of another market rally day. So you have to ask yourself how greedy are you going to be right now going into a Fed meeting. Option activity, and then we'll leave it here. Maybe a little bit shorter video than I've been doing recently. There was some Netflix calls in the beginning of the day. Interesting, this name Netflix. I didn't see where it finished, but it just seems like every time it rallies, it gives it back. So big pop. I mean, look at this thing. And it could be because of this. This was mentioned in the room today, which was a great comment. It could be just because this Apple event is coming up, and they're introducing video streaming, or some type of video service. So it may be that way. But if you're really quick with this stuff, like day trading on first 5-minute bar and selling on the third 5-minute bar, great job, but it's not one of those names that you could just kind of sit in and be in. You really have to be on your toes, I should say. Beta, I think this name reports after hours today. We saw some calls. Yext, we saw some weekly calls go up in Take Two. Walmart, big block of Walmart calls. Also big block of IWM calls that went up, short-dated calls, 20,000 of those. Pure Storage and QEP, we saw calls versus puts go up. A little bit of Domo. SE, which is a name that's been on fire, was in a nice bull flag and looks like it's resolving itself up. Granted the calls were 30 strike, which is really far up there, but right now the name's got momentum to it. All right, so that's 15 minutes. I think that's good enough for a video, but yeah, that's the game plan. I think I've already said it a couple times, but just think about it the next couple days and think about your game plan and whether you want to be carrying a lot of risk into an event this week. All right, thanks for watching. Have a great night. See you tomorrow.